Boys are going to bring the heat today.
As the leader of the Booner Pack, I lead from the front.
All right, boys. Lock in.
It's our core foundation, man. Grit.
I'm fired up. I'm fired the f*** up, boys.
It's pumping right now. It's got my juices pumping, boys.
Welcome to Crunch Time Sports. We are back with Jeff, Booner, Lucas. It is Wednesday, April 9th, and it's the day of the doc. All right? It's the day of the doc. And also, if you didn't know, you got the day of the doc on the bottom there on the ticker. Just added
Come on now.
Well, boys, you know what? Finding ways to get better every single day. That's what it's about.
I'm a big fan of a ticker. I like the ticker.
Go the ticker.
Great
addition.
You're not impressed with the ticker? I mean, what are we doing?
Hey, you know what? You know what my mindset is, boys? Been there, done that. Pumped up. We got something added to the show. Hey, as we should. Let's go, boys. The day of the doc.
Yeah, no, I'm fired up about it, man. We got a lot to get to today. More guys visiting the Lions, free agents and
pumped up
prospects. A free agent. Maybe a Zadarius Smith replacement.
Here we go.
I don't know. People, Shift God didn't like me saying that, but which again, it was potential. But we'll see. They brought in an edge. We'll get to it. Played in the NFC North, so there's some familiarity there. But before we get to all of that, you guys, Luka's playing the Mavericks right now. I just realized that too. I wish he's back in Dallas.
Oh,
chanting "Fire Nico" every time he scores.
Good, as they should.
Yeah,
as they should. I saw something there. They were like, they tried to do like partnerships since he was returning back with like some of the brands he works with, and Luka turned them all down. Like I don't know, probably like with Jordan and all these different like brands he's ambassadors of. And they tried to go through Luka, and Luka just shut it all down and said, "No, I'm a Laker now. You guys don't get the positivity, and you guys don't get those bonuses. The fact that you let me go, I thought that's the best. Like, he's a dog, dude. I might bet on the Lakers to win it all. I just might do it."
I thought their biggest competition probably would have been, matchup-wise, I thought Denver would have gave him a hard time, but we just saw Mike Malone get fired out of nowhere. So they got a chance
the Thunder.
Between them, the Thunder, Houston, I think, postseason-wise, it's not their year. They're a little too early, and then maybe Golden State, depending on what Jimmy Butler we see. Because I think if Jimmy Butler's playoff Jimmy, you see Steph Curry scoring, Draymond's able to play good defense. I don't think there's a lot of teams that would ever want to play that Golden State team in a 7-game series.
I mean, you saw yesterday. I don't know if you boys saw it though. The Thunder's game, like they were winning the game, and then Luka gets Do you see Luka gets ejected for talking to a fan? He yelled at a fan.
Rescinded. They took back the tech that they.
But he missed the whole fourth quarter because of it, and they lost the game because they kicked him out.
Wild.
Like
Did you see the foul, Austin Reeves? No,
I didn't.
Oh. God, there's like the thing with SGA getting every call at this point.
Yeah.
Even though I do think he's MVP, but he does get a ton of calls, man. Yeah, like there was a call where he went to the rack against Austin Reeves. He pushes him off with his forearm, steps back, mid-range jumper, and Austin Reeves like contests it, doesn't even touch him, just puts his hand up.
They call foul.
Shooting foul.
It's ridiculous. At that point. It really is.
And he was sitting there like, what? And it was posted on like Sports Center, and everyone's like, what? Like and someone said, man, they called a foul on Reeves for SGA's push off. Like, that's crazy work. I'm like, yeah, that's a whole other thing. Which refs miss calls, I get that. And a lot of the calls in that game actually benefited the Lakers at points, but that call was terrible. So yeah, I mean, we'll see. You see the Knicks, by the way. I want to bring this up before we get to all this stuff. The Knicks, James Edwards, who covers the Knicks now, formerly Pistons, did a great job for the Athletic. Still works for the Athletic, but he tweeted out that the Knicks are resting guys to potentially try and play the Bucks. They don't want to play the Pistons.
That's interesting.
I don't blame them.
Because, and it makes sense. I know Knicks fans were pissed at him for even suggesting that because they're like, "Oh, you slappy, you're from Detroit." Like, Knicks fans suck, man. And he said, no, it's because I think they've swept the Bucks so far, and they're 1-2 against the Pistons. I think that's how it works. I think they're 1-2 against the Pistons, and they've swept the Bucks. So it's like from like a
makes a little sense.
Yeah, it makes sense. You want to play the Bucks. I mean,
that's still crazy though. The fact that they would do that. I mean, you should, in my opinion, and maybe I'm wrong. I guess it's good to be healthy going into the playoffs, but like you want to be able to like fully be playing together. You don't want to like sit out and then all of a sudden, boom, you're in the playoffs and then you struggle because you've been sitting for 2 weeks. Like that. Yeah. That is, to me, there is a side of that. But the Pistons do, or not the Pistons, the Knicks. Those guys get hurt all the time because Tom Thibodeau like
runs them into the fucking
ground. So they probably do need some rest. There probably is a little bit of rest as well.
That's always how Tibbs has been. He plays his starter. I mean, that's like Knicks fans always complain about that. They'll be up 25 in the fourth, and he's playing starters. It's like I'm not a huge Tibbs guy. I respect Tibbs. I think he's like you got to respect him because he's a good coach. But
the Knicks are 1-2.
Old school coach. Old school.
They're 1-2 versus the Knicks.
No, the Knicks are 1-2 against the Pistons, I believe.
Okay, so the Pistons. For a second, I thought it was they only had one. For
whatever reason, it's just matchups. You know, matchups make fights. For whatever reason, the Pistons they match up with the Pistons. It's just like
they don't want to be physical. That's what it comes down to.
I mean,
they want to, but against the Pistons, it's hard for them to be. I feel like if you go against Milwaukee, like obviously Giannis, definitely physical team. Giannis. But when you think of Doc Rivers and a Doc Rivers led team, the first thing you're not thinking of is physicality. Like you're thinking of, they're going to play defense, but you're not going to be beaten up. Milwaukee's not going to be beaten up on New York for 7 games in that series. I think to your point, Boone, how much that Tibbs played those starters, fresh Pistons team with all these young guys that are just going to play balls to walls for all 4 quarters. Like Knicks could definitely find a way to go without going through that, and if they want to play Milwaukee instead, it's a smart option. It really,
to be honest, and we haven't really had a conversation though. Like I would rather play the Knicks than the Pacers, and I don't even care about the record. Like I know we haven't really beat the Pacers. It might be like 1-3 versus them or whatever it is. I just like it's such a big, in my opinion, like New York is such a big stage for Cade Cunningham. Like I would love, like that would be it's the Mecca. You know what I mean? Like, and we've seen Cade go into MSG and put numbers up and win games. I would love for the Pistons to, a year that the Knicks are supposed to be good and go on a run, to shut all that down in front of Spike Lee, have one of those moments, steal a game on the road, win an LCA, and force like a game 7 at Madison Square Garden, and Cade goes for 40. How about that?
I know. I tweeted out my heart.
Cares about Baker's life.
My heart wants the Pacers because as a basketball fan, I love the rivalry. I love the trash talk. Like, Halliburton saying like, oh, something about he'd shade in the Pistons. Like my heart wants it, but my brain is with you, Boone. Like it's smarter. You want the New York. In New York, like everything.
I think the rivalry. I would rather have a rivalry with New York than the Indiana Pacers. Like if I'm being just completely transparent, personally, I would.
When it comes to playoffs, who gives you more fear, Jalen Brunson or Halliburton? As far
Jalen
as like,
Brunson,
that's
Brunson.
But I would almost rather play
the team.
But I want that. I want
Pacers. But individually, Jalen Brunson, he's going to win Clutch Player of the Year. I mean, he's
actually. I don't know. Anthony Edwards. I put a bet on him. I have a bet on Anthony Edwards. I saw something that the last like 3 years, Clutch Player of the Year, Jeff. Whoever leads the league in clutch points wins it. Anthony Edwards just took that over like 2 nights ago. And shout out Stephen Shea. He's been on our show. He actually tweeted it out and mentioned like, hey, he's like 4 points behind Jalen Brunson. When I got the bet, boys.
What was that?
Let me see real quick. Because he tweeted out and was like, I don't know why he's plus 5,000 to win Clutch Player of the Year. And when I got it, it's to win 440 for me, $440. And when I got it, it was plus 5,000. He was 2 or 3 points behind clutch points in the season. I think if you looked up clutch points right now, which again, the winner of it every year has had the most clutch points in the NBA. I think Anthony Richardson now has the most.
Anthony Edwards?
Or Edwards. Sorry about that.
Wait, plus you get it at plus 4,000 something?
5,000. Plus 5,000.
Oh my gosh.
Come on, Boone.
Let me look up and see what it is now. It was like 2 weeks ago. I probably should have said something, but it was just such a out of nowhere thing where I just how do you look at the clutch points, boys? Does anyone know?
I think they have it on NBA.com. I don't know if they have it on ESPN. I think you have to go to like the NBA. NBA.com has like more deeper advanced stats. You could probably find
it is.
You could probably
per game totals. I got it right here. Clutch points. Guess who's leading right now in clutch points? I got it a week ago. He was 4 points behind.
How much is he above or ahead?
He has 157 clutch points. Jalen Brunson, 152.
Yeah, that's a great point. He might steal it.
I hope he does.
I mean, talk about importance. I think Anthony Edwards to the Timberwolves is probably more important. Definitely more important. So especially in crunch time, no pun intended. But he's the guy. So I love it. Great bet.
How do I look up? I want to look up now, what it is.
But the Pistons, Knicks, we'll see. I mean, the Knicks want the Bucks. I hope they win for whatever reason. I just hope they win. Get the Pistons. Let's clock in. It's time to go. Time to play at the Mecca.
I don't think I can do it.
I want it. I want the Mecca. I want Cade in Madison Square Garden.
How crazy would that be?
He'd be comfortable. He'd be comfortable out there. All right. We got, like I said, some players visiting the Lions. One of those players, a NFL prospect. And honestly, boys, full transparency. Never heard of this guy.
Me either.
Had to do more research. Apparently, he's interviewing with a lot of teams, and they're looking at him as a day 2 pick. So it's not even like he's some late draft guy. He's actually he's a guy that a lot of teams kind of like. And he played at a school where Brad loves in the SEC, and that is Q Robinson. The Alabama edge rusher, Q Robinson, visited with the Lions yesterday, visiting with the Panthers today, and has upcoming visits with the Falcons and the Chiefs. The 6'4", 243-pounder showed a ton of upside this season, racking up 4 sacks, 7 tackles for losses in 9 games. Has been a staple on special teams, viewed by many teams as a day 2 pick. So,
I'm going to be honest.
Could be like a 4th, 5th, 6th, whatever. I mean, he's in range. The Pistons want to pick a guy up,
Lions.
What would I say?
Pistons.
Or Lions. Now I'm all twisted. Yeah, the Lions. They want to pick a guy like this up. I will say this about Q Robinson. I did more research on him. He's a beast on special teams. Beast.
Love that.
He played special teams like Alabama. They love him on special teams. And this past season played a lot more. He's a little light. He's 243 pounds. I think that's about how big James Pierce is. So people always come at James Pierce for his weight. He's 243 pounds. So, to play edge, I think teams see him as more maybe a Sam linebacker.
Okay.
But regardless, special teamer, 6'4", 243, Calvin Shepard. I think Calvin would be looking at this dude going, okay, what can we do with Q Robinson? Love that. And he had a season-ending injury. So stocks going up, boys.
That's right down Brad's. That's right down his alley, man. Someone with a season-ending injury. I don't know. I think a guy with Q Robinson, and someone in the chat said I think it's good. Oh, whoa. The Jeff just he's alive. I don't know if that was on my end. I'm in on it. I think that and realistically, boys, the first 2 rounds, if they get an edge rusher or a Sam guy, I think it's realistic to think in day 2, day 3 that Brad's going to try and find a guy like Q Robinson where it's hey, this is a guy who has a ceiling. He's produced. Well, how many? Can you pull that back up? What was the games played? Was it 7 or 9 games?
9 games.
Yep.
So in 9 games, 4 sacks, 7 tackles for a loss. He's productive. In 9 games, being able to go out there and just produce, not having the full season. I'm with it, and you know what the biggest thing is, boys? It's an Alabama guy. I don't know how many years was he at Alabama. Do we know that?
He was at Alabama. So he was at, and by the way, 4-star prospect coming out, 4-star, and he went to Bama.
Was he there with Nick Saban?
Yes, he was.
Yeah, I think
there it is.
He's been at Bama for 3 years. He's a junior.
That's the biggest selling point to me is I do think, and this is going to sound crazy. And if you guys remember when we did our mock draft 1.0, who did I bring up to all the people and kind of, said till people say, hey, keep this guy on your radar. Who was that, boys?
I guess Malachi Moore.
Malachi Moore. And you know what? The one argument that I said, and no one was talking about Malachi, and I said he's going to be one of those last guys in the NFL draft that worked with Nick Saban. And it's going to come to an end at some point. Some of these players who not just only hey, maybe there for 1 year with Nick Saban, no, had a career under Nick Saban. And we've seen the Brian Branches, Terrions, Jahmyr Gibbs. Like Brad loves those guys. And Q Robinson, he's a Nick Saban guy, whether he finished his career with Nick Saban or not. He was there during that kind of stint. And it's the same thing with the Malachi Moore. To where I think in day 2 and on, there are a couple Bama guys who aren't first-round picks, second-round picks, but you're looking and you're going, if you can get a guy that has that mindset and you actually go like Malachi Moore, I believe 1 point captain. I don't know about Q Robinson, but I'm sure for a guy to be playing special teams and defense, hard worker, wants to be great.
Yep.
Nick Saban type of dude. And that's what Brad and Dan look for. I think I got to watch more film on him and get caught up. I don't want to go deep into his game without being educated. So I would like to get educated a little bit up on him and see kind of a little bit more, but I would be in a Bama guy like that day 2, day 3 in a position of need, all in.
No, you'll like the film, Boone. He's a lengthy guy. He'd be pretty much, if I were to see the Lions drafting Josiah Stewart and then they would get Q Robinson later, that's pretty much doubling up at the same type of role. Like both of those guys, I agree with you. He's probably going to be more of a linebacker, but he's got great athleticism. Like in the open field, he's really good when he's able to get one-on-one with the quarterback. He's somebody that in space for a defensive edge type of guy is athletic. So I think he's like 6'4", 6'5". I could be wrong, but I know, like to your point, Jeff, he's skinnier, but you put a little bit size on him, he's definitely somebody that you could see in that NASCAR package. So like Mekhi Wingo went in the 6th round. If you can get Q Robinson in the 5th round this year, I think that'd be great value for him.
You know what he reminds me of? And I know people are going to hate this, but like height, weight, Julian Okora. That's what he's built like. I know.
I see what you're saying though.
Yeah, like you know how they use Julian? Like Julian is like an outside linebacker that could play. Yeah, speed guy. I don't know if Q Robinson has that type of speed, but Julian Okora actually a Cardinal this past season.
I want to say I could be wrong because I remember Q Robinson last year. Not that he was anything good. I just remember I want to say at some point he played like corner or safety or something like that. Like he wasn't. I don't think he was recruited to play edge.
No, he was a safety, and then he moved. I think his last like year of high school to defensive end.
So something like so
he was
athletic,
a DB.
That's like that's Boone. You're muted. That's I think that's attractive to have as far as like again, not as a starter, but as a Swiss Army knife. Like you want to run multiple linebackers inside the box, throw them out there. Good at identifying a play, maybe getting his hands up, swatting down a pass, getting an interception.
Yeah, I think if he can move to this, like if he could play Sam, whoever said it, they might be in you Klotz, like the Josiah Stewart type of deal. Like it's just depth, and you don't need him to do it, right? Like you do have guys like Trevor Nowatzki that you already know can produce at that position. But if you can just add more to where if you do need someone, if Derek Barnes goes down or Trevor goes down or someone goes down, boom, you have a Q Robinson, you have a Josiah Stewart, you have guys like that. That's why I think like finding. That's why you know what, boys, and I'm gonna stick with it the rest of it. We have how many weeks until the draft? 3.
Actually about almost 2. I mean,
less than 3 weeks. I'm sticking to this whole my mindset going forward with these picks, even in the 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th round. It just goes BPA. Like if you're sitting there with Q Robinson, yeah, we have guys we already drafted at that position. Oh wait, he's the best player on the board. He's the highest on our list. Snag him. We'll figure it out. It's the same thing at every position. Maybe first round, if you want to argue the semantics of positional value and all these different things, that's fine. But after the first 2 rounds, I don't care. You could go get 4 corners. Like if they're the best player at left, you go get a dude, and you don't pass them up just because you already have that position. You go and get a guy there. That's what the second day do. Day 2 and day 3. That's what it's for. Did you guys see today too? I actually read something. I can't remember who it was. It was a national. It might have been like Ian Rappaport or something. I can't remember exactly who it was, but they actually brought up shocking. But they were like, "This isn't," and we've talked about it, Jeff. It's not a star draft; it's a starter draft, and I heard that. But then underneath it, they had mentioned they said most teams should be able to get 3 to 4 starters in this draft, not just 3 to 4 starters in the first. 3 to 4 starters teams should get. Like a team, like the Detroit Lions alone could walk out of this draft with 3 to 4 starters. And there's a lot of teams. That's how deep this draft is when it looks at guys like Q Robinson and you're talking Josiah Stewart in day 2. Like there are some dudes that can start in these late days. Q Robinson could be one of them.
And I have another one here too, which I didn't see.
I was excited when I saw this, boys.
But the Lions, and notice, and something to say after we show this because it confirms what I already kind of believe. But shout out Detroit Times. Jordan Schultz put out Ohio State defensive tackle Tyleik.
I didn't even see this today.
Williams has a pre-draft visit scheduled with the Lions. So remember, we talk about this. A lot of things come full circle when we have conversations on this show. We get ahead of things. And we talked about how visits are meaningful. And it sounds obvious, but the Lions value, if they're speaking to a player, they like them. And when they speak to a player, they want confirmation on what they already think of a player. They want to speak to them and check those boxes, see what makes them tick, all that stuff. So the fact that they're talking to Tyleik, they've already had a visit with Deon Walker. I think they're looking at this thing going, we may need to scoop up a D tackle or not even that. Let's not even go the need thing. There's some good D tackles in this draft.
Yep.
That's what they're thinking to themselves. So I think the probability of them replacing DJ Reader, or at least having someone to play in place of Aleem, however you want to spin it, is getting more and more real as the days go on. They're inviting more big defensive tackles out to meet with them. And Tyleik, you would know more about him, Klotz, like where he plays, how he would succeed. But I think it's interesting they're talking to defensive tackles. I do.
No, Tyleik, boys, and it's ironic that I think he plays a lot like Aleem McNeil. When you look at A, he's good against the run, but B, he's athletic. He's very light-footed. He's not out there. He's not going to be Walter Nolan. He's not going to be somebody like that, but he's going to be out there, and this is going to be one of the better defensive tackles in this draft. Again, I don't think he's Walter Nolan, Kenneth Grant, any of those guys, but that second tier, like in the second round, Tyleik Williams can get after the quarterback. He had 11.5 career sacks at Ohio State. And when you look at the big games, especially against the run and putting pressure on the quarterback, forcing incompletions, Tyleik Williams always stepped up. And on that front seven, which was a loaded front seven, he was the heartbeat. Like, he was the guy that when they needed to make a play, he was out there, he made a sack, and then he let everybody fucking know that he got a sack and he got that defense going. So when you look at a high motor guy, Tyleik Williams, intelligent football.
Whoa.
Anyone still there? Hello?
I think we lost Klotzy on that. Maybe he'll come back.
For a second, the fact that he was full screen and that happened, I thought the whole stream was gone.
No, but to what Klotzy was saying, he is built.
I thought we shut down first.
Here,
I thought we shut down first.
2 days in a row now, fellas. That was terrible.
I've
been waiting all day to rant about Tyleik Williams, been saying how he's a perfect fit.
Like you were saying.
When Aleem McNeil, I'll continue the rant for like 30 seconds. Aleem McNeil, going to be out the first couple of weeks. If he's not out, he's not going to be 100%. DJ Reader is going to be there. You're getting a younger Aleem McNeil, and he's already athletic enough where you saw Aleem kind of go through that process where he's like, you know what, want to lose a couple of pounds so I can get after the quarterback. I don't think that's all. It's attractive in the moment because you're like, I'm going to be athletic. When you're a defensive tackle, that weight is there for a reason, and Tyleik Williams already is athletic enough where he can keep that weight. So you're getting a guy that can get after the quarterback and I think develop very well under Aleem. Second round guy, though.
He is built. I mean, you talk about how he's built. He's 6. What is he? 6'1"?
No, he's
big
6'3".
fella. Big
6'3",
fella.
327.
300. Yeah, no, you're right. 6'3", 327 pounds.
He's a big fella. He's a big fella.
And he's
probably
probably
getting a little bit of shape. Gets a little. Not you don't have to slim down and lose all the weight, but hey, get in NFL shape. I think there's a difference between college shape and NFL shape, especially at that position. I would argue, in my opinion, at least. You see guys do it all the time.
Played most of his snaps in the B gap. Like that dude, I mean, his grades, his run defense is what he prides himself on. Pass rushing, it's not really, again, a guy that size, you're like, can you stop the run? He can.
He can get to the quarterback.
He got a little juice too to get to the QB. I like that. I mean, that when we talk about a DJ Reader replacement, that's DJ Reader. He's a stout run defender. That's what you're looking for, a true nose tackle. And I mean, Tyleik, I got to do more research on him because where's he projected to go? What's
second
his
round?
So he's
I'm telling you, like he can get after the quarterback. He's not just a run. Like he might I think he only had 11.5 sacks over the course of his career. But if you watch his Notre Dame game from last year when Ohio State and Notre Dame played, major like interior pressure, forcing the quarterback to step up, make a play outside the pocket, but he's a guy in big games. Like he gets to the quarterback. He's not just somebody that's a run specific defensive tackle. So
yeah, he had 5 sacks as a freshman. So yeah, he's got
Yeah, I just did a mock draft.
athletic.
He went 51 overall. So
I don't see a way he doesn't go in the second round.
he might not make it to 60.
I was
so
going to say
probably
11 and a
have to trade
half through his career is actually pretty good for a nose tackle.
Yeah. I mean, even like
but
look at
I'm saying you compare it to like Walter Nolan through the course of
No. But
his
to your
career,
point,
got
like
more.
he's got more
Like that-
juice, and I'm probably
say,
giving him credit.
if he's like going to be like a DJ Reader doesn't go out there and get a bunch of sacks. He had his career high this year with the Detroit Lions, and that was, in my opinion, because there was guys out, and his career high is like 3 sacks. So like you're talking about 11 and a half through, you're talking about 11 and a half through 4 years, or however many years he was at Ohio State. I don't even think sacks is like with DJ Reader and people. I see a lot of people too, and it's just maybe people who don't know football, but like are like questioning DJ Reader because of his sacks. But it's that's not his game. Like you just don't know what you're talking about. It's like that with him. Like I do think there's a world, and Jeff, I think it was me and you that had a conversation a couple of weeks ago about the defensive tackles with the Lions. Like I think it's a deeper group than people think and people lead on to, and I think like the only way that these arguments can be made is because one, Aleem is out, and not even that he's out to start, but he's been injured back-to-back seasons, and not just small injuries at MCL and ACL. Like he's been injured. DJ Reader, he doesn't have a lot of time left on his deal. He signed a short-term deal. So like you are sitting there like, hey, we do need some potential starters, guys that can step in. I think like if you take that away, you take the injuries from Aleem away and just say this year alone, I think this defensive tackle group you can win a Super Bowl with as is. But like I think guys like Tyleik, like these guys, I think it's more so like, what is he going to do for you in the future? Like you're going to, in my opinion, how deep this defensive tackle draft class is, you're drafting a defensive tackle. And I don't think it has nothing to do with needs, because you don't need a defensive tackle.
No, there's just
day
talent.
one. It's just that is literally the BPA argument, to where like these are just talented dudes from round 1 to round 2 and even round 3. I mean, honestly, even to like the 6th round, like you see the guys like my guy Ty Robinson. You see guys like that. Klotz, your guy from Notre Dame, Riley Mills. Is it Riley Mills?
Yeah.
So like you see guys from top to bottom every single day, all 3 days of this draft, to where it's like, I will guarantee you at some point a defensive tackle will be taken off the board by the Detroit Lions. And if they don't, it's a miss, because there's so many good ones. But I don't see a world where Brad's meeting with Kenneth Grant, who's a projected top 20 draft pick right now. And he's meeting with him. So I think it's like, be prepared, because I do think that's a big need for the future of the Lions, not this year, but for the future.
Yeah,
hey, Jeff, real quick, go check out the tweet I just sent you. This is like one of my favorite accounts on Twitter. This is like half the time where I found like my Klotzy's guy. This is where it's at. Look who they compare him to in there. The most recent one. I think I just sent you.
Can we pull it up so people?
Yeah,
can see?
yeah. It's all like that's where I get the footage that we play for. Now here's a guy leaking a valid source here, but I don't care. It's for the benefit of the show.
Where you send it on?
Can you pull it up, Clark?
Yeah.
Oh, my bad. Thought you meant Twitter. Yeah, I got it. Okay, yeah, here we go. NFL draft files. Okay, yeah, let me pull this up so you guys can see it. Let me see. All right. Oh my gosh, seeing him on tape too. He's massive, dude. All right, here's this is the Notre Dame thing you're talking about.
This was this year, but I was thinking last year. I remember he was just suffocating against Notre Dame. But like, if you scroll up and like look who they compare him to, they compare him to Aleem McNeil. Like he's the perfect Aleem McNeil comp. Like him or not like Devontae Wyatt from the Packers. Like you're getting one of those guys in the 2nd round, because that was the upside with Aleem.
At that
was his
size
ability.
too.
What do you say, Boone?
Let's say look at him run at that size.
Yeah,
man.
but look at he's a walking double team.
Yeah.
I mean,
It looks like he's about to. The crazy thing, it looks like he's about to get just like thrown around. Like he like that first play. It looks like he's about to get blown up. No, did he? And then he just takes the double team on and makes the play.
Look at him! Look at him move.
I'm saying the big fella moving.
Motor boys.
No, that's
I like it. I'm in.
I'm intrigued by Tyleik. I am. I like it. He can attract double teams. You know, he's. I mean, obviously by the numbers, 11.5 sacks in 4 years. He's got some pass rush upside. He's big. DJ Reader replaced. If they took him in the 2nd, I would not be upset.
I hate this so much, boys. If I'm being honest, not him as the pick. I just hate the fact that there are just so many dudes in the first 2 rounds, in my opinion. to where it's like we're gonna have to like watch a lot of these guys go somewhere else because you can only have 2 of them.
I was thinking that because they're all almost like the same tier too. You know what I mean? Like,
so it's like you don't know who you're gonna get. Like they met with him, but they met with guys they've drafted, so they might end up with Tyleik. But then we're talking about Josiah Stewart. If you draft him, you're not gonna get Josiah Stewart. So it's just such a like.
Well, they Tom McShay went on Cowherd today.
Man.
He said he has 35, I want to say 34 defensive linemen going in the top 60.
That's crazy.
He said the most ever was like 28 or something like that. So he's like, even if 6 don't, it's still like a record. It's tied for a record for the last like 20 years or 10 years. I forgot the exact number, but it's been a while since this many guys have came out. You know,
can we have okay? That's Jeff. I love that. I want to bring this up because I did it 2 weeks ago, and some people said, "Booner, you're an idiot." Trading back into the top 60, keeping the first round, keeping the second round, keeping 28 and keeping 60, but trading up into it and getting three picks in the top 60 because of how good those defensive line is. Like I did it a couple weeks ago. And people said, "Booner, what are you doing? Are you that dumb?" Like, there's no way Brad would trade back into the first round. There's no way he would do it. You would have to give up 28, or if you traded into 30, you would have to give up 60. I want everyone right now to go into their Google search bar, type in NFL draft picks, type in what is it? Value. NFL draft pick value chart. Go do some math and go look at that. Because when I did it a couple weeks ago, I went and did the math just like they did with JMO, to where it's like, hey, and every GM uses the same chart. It's an NFL thing that GMs use. Hey, you get this many points, I get this many points. Let's get it as close as we can here. If you want to make the trade, we'll make the trade. They will be able to use next year's futures, and they'll be able to go and get a top 60 pick if they want to, while keeping 60 and while keeping 28. Brad's done it before. He's been able to do it. Like, don't be shocked if he did it again this year and he goes gets 3 defensive linemen in the first 60 picks, or he lands 2 defensive linemen and an offensive lineman in the first 60 picks.
Or that's best case situation.
Or like we argued yesterday, not even argued, but we talked about yesterday, maybe he does an off the wall pick. And then he goes, you know what? I'm going to trade back and get, my defensive lineman and offensive lineman, trade up and get one of those guys.
Maybe he does defensive lineman, offensive lineman, and a wide receiver. And you're sitting there going, what? Oh, but guess what? We still got our D line and O line. And you just got a weapon for the next 4 or 5 years. And you're sitting there going, Brad Holmes did it again, boys, huh? That's why I think at 28, Klotz, and when we do the show, like, we can have instant reactions. I do think, like, as good as the second round is, there is going to be that side where, hey, wait till day 2, boys, because
that's fair. Yeah,
32 or 33 to 60, whatever. Like, there's going to be some dudes in day 2, and that's going to be, I think, really where Brad can get to work. Like, if they go some random position in the first round, okay, again, let's not overreact until that second round happens.
I gotta see who's on the board. If we take, for the sake of the conversation, if Luther Burden's the pick and Kenneth Grant's sitting on the board, I will have a huge issue.
Yeah,
context. I agree. Those picks to me are if all of those edges and offensive linemen are off the board, and it's like, all right, now he's gonna go BPA. He better make some moves tomorrow.
Well, you could still sign someone, and there's a player that met with the Lions that played for the Bears. Had a career-high 7 sacks a couple years ago with the Titans. And we've already heard that Brad's been in contact with Zadarius Smith's agent, but it seems like they still want to sign one more edge. It's, I guess, the feeling I'm getting. They met today with free agent defensive end DeMarcus Walker. They brought him in on a visit. He's visiting with a couple teams. Played for the Bears, had 3 sacks. He's every year gets a couple sacks. He's not like a game breaker, but he's a good depth piece. That's kind of what he is at this point. He's 30 years old. I got some crap in the video I made earlier because I said he was a little older. Someone's like, when is 30 old? I mean, it's not. I shouldn't say it's old.
Yeah, you got to chill because I'm going to be 30 soon.
But in NFL standards, it's not young. Okay, can we agree? We can agree.
I think that might be prime.
Yeah,
I think 30. You could talk about being in your prime.
That's like end of prime.
Yeah, you're still in
32. You're like DJ Reader's 32, I believe.
So
we admit his shelf life's not much longer.
But DeMarcus Walker, okay, and I want to say this: they're bringing him in for a visit. I think this, to me, again, just my opinion, is they're doing this to feel out the field. They're going to have to maybe pivot away if they can't get Zadarius Smith. Okay, obviously, because they're not going to sign Zadarius to DeMarcus Walker. But this could be like maybe if we don't get Zadarius, we can get cheaper. Not comparable, because Zadarius is better, but depth, I'll call it. A contributor. That would be DeMarcus Walker. So it tells me, it doesn't make me more confident that Zadarius will be a Lion. I will say that.
I think number one, once you boys think like Zadarius, like I still think the Zadarius thing's alive.
It's still alive. It's just the pulse is there.
I think there's a pulse. But I mean, Klotz, if there was no chance, like you're saying, he would be signed somewhere else already. So there's obviously still conversations. It was mentioned a week ago from Brad Holmes. Hey, we're still in contact with his agent and Zadarius. The conversations are still ongoing. So if you don't think there's a chance, Klotzy, then I don't know what those conversations are about. I don't know if they're just setting up.
Chance, Boone.
I disagree. I don't think they're just having conversations and staying in contact just to go get a Little Caesars pizza next Friday and just hang out and go see a movie. Like, I think they're having in contact because Zadarius still wants to come back to Detroit. It's just about, hey, what's this contract going to look like, and trying to finding that line. Like, I think Zadarius, if he had a choice, my guess would be we're at the top of his list, but he also has some other teams that are looking, and it's like, all right, what does the money look like for all of them? So a 2% chance would be if there's 20 different teams were offering him. And I bet you it's not. I bet you it's 2 or 3 teams, and Lions are probably one of them. We probably have a 33% chance. They have a 33, and they have a 33, and we're just all sitting there kind of going back and forth. So I don't think I think it's smart for Brad to be like, we can't just sit back and hold
all your eggs in one basket.
Yeah, like that would be dumb. Like, and this is why Brad is kind of on a little, this is why he's our GM, is because, hey, let's not just focus on Zadarius. Let's go look at it. Let's have a conversation with DeMarcus Walker. I don't think he's a bum. There's one thing that I always talk about with the edge group, boys, and D line. We just need guys in here who can get you those 4 sacks a year. Like, you don't need 3 guys to get you 15. You need an Aiden Hutchinson at 15 plus. You need, hopefully, if a Davenport stays healthy, or a rookie,
like 8, 7,
a rookie
8.
to come in to get you 7 to 9, or one of those guys, and then you need a couple guys that can get you 3 or 4, and that's where I think DeMarcus Walker kind of fits that fold. And then being on a good team and a good defense, you have seen guys like him come in, like similar guys like vets come in and be successful in this Lions team because of the culture, because of the way they play defense, because of offensively what they do. So I wouldn't be shocked if he came in and gets 3 or 4 sacks this year, if they were to bring him in. But obviously there is that difference between him and Zadarius. So I don't want to say this is a Zadarius replacement, but it's you're starting to patch it up. Like, if you get DeMarcus Walker and a rookie, all right, it's patched up there. Now you're good to roll.
Yeah, I'm with you guys. I don't have too much to add. The only thing I would add is the fact that I like that he played in Chicago before. I know at least with Caleb it was only for a year, but to have somebody that's familiar with Caleb Williams and kind of how he operates, DJ Moore, if they want to run back with DeAndre Swift, they'll probably pick up a running back, but still, he's got familiarity with that defense and the offense. So that's another thing where we've seen Chicago poach so many coaches from the Lions this year that, hey, you're able to add a player. It's obviously not a Ben Johnson or a Antoine Randall, but it still is another piece that you could steal away from the Bears. So I'd be fine with it. He'd be good behind Aiden Hutchinson or Marcus Davenport. He pretty much is Marcus Davenport, just not as big.
Yeah, his best season, boys, like just looking at it, his best season was probably on the team that had the best defense. Like, if you look at his career, right? All right, what team defensively was probably best? The Tennessee Titans back in 2022 with Mike Vrabel. 7 sacks. Like, and that was, he played 1 year in Tennessee, a very good football team, played in all 17 games, a great defensive team, and he contributes 7 sacks. So it's like, it seems like he's one of those guys to where if you put him in the right position, and that, you have an Aiden Hutchinson, a DJ Reader, a Liam around him, you have good linebackers, a good DC, good depth, he could go out there and compete. And he's played in 17 games 3 straight years.
That's the big part of it. I like that part. He could stay healthy. I mean, Malik says DeMarcus Walker is more of a rotational player. Zadarius is turning into a rotational player, but can still be an effective number 2 edge. I don't see Walker in that light, which I think is fair. Malik also said we need to treat the situation like Davenport's already hurt because he's going to get hurt. I've said that a bunch of times. Me and Malik are in lockstep with that one. It sounds disrespectful.
It's a fact.
It's just like, yeah, you got to almost treat it like you don't have him. Because if he balls out, it's great. Awesome. But you can't depend on it, unfortunately, at this point in his career. I think Colton Pouncey wrote an article for The Athletic, and he had him up there as like one of the players with the most to prove, which is like, yeah. I mean, the dude has a ton to prove if he can even stay healthy. That's the big one. And then we have Rage Bait here from Streams Only. Tired of hearing Kenneth Grant's name. He's a bozo. No name running back stripped the ball out of his baby soft hands.
Oh, my God.
That's Rage Bait. Come on.
I'm not even going to buy into that.
I'm
an Ohio State fan, and
come on, Streams Only.
Love Kenneth Grant.
You can't say Kenneth Grant's a bum.
Look at Kenneth Grant and be like,
you can't. You just can't say he's a bum. I mean, maybe you don't think he'll translate and be like elite, but that's tough. No, I don't.
What are we doing there?
Cartier says we almost can't miss on DNs of this draft, especially if he only needs to be the number 2 next to Hutch.
All right, can we just kind of all agree on one thing here?
Go on.
It's not Rage Bait, no production.
Go
on. Right, on that D line. All right, Streams Only. I think we're past the point to where it's like you really you need a number 2. Outside of Marcus Davenport, as long as you have a rotational guys, you don't need. I think you see it around the NFL all the time. Like the Eagles are the best example. They just have a rotation of guys, but they have Jalen Carter as the anchor in the middle. But they have a rotational of edges. Obviously, the Josh Sweats, they had just dudes coming in, boom, 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 boom. I think that's what you have to have outside of Hutch. I just think on the other side, I don't think it's hey, you need a 10+ sack guy to be your number 2. You just need some dudes that can get in there and they can, let's say, they can get a combined 20+ something sacks together.
Yeah, I mean, what's a good number 2 production wise?
I would say anywhere
8.
from 7 to 10 sacks.
Which is
10 would be oh my gosh, there we go, boys.
Yeah, you got dominant, not dominant, but that's fucking elite.
I'd be happy with 7.
What was Alex Van Ginkel had a lot, but Jonathan Greenard from the Vikings this year, he also had 8 to 10 sacks as well. And I look at that pass rushing duo, and I think Aiden Hutchinson's much better than Alex Van Ginkel, obviously. But if you can find that Jonathan Greenard, that's perfect.
Yeah,
I was gonna say, you don't even, again, to my point to this whole thing, you don't even need just a Jonathan Greenard. You need 2 or 3 guys that can make that up. Because if you have a rotate a rookie, we had this conversation all the time. You're not guaranteed a rookie to come in and get you 7 or 8. It takes time.
You're not. You're not.
More likely than not, it's going to take time for a rookie to come in and get you that. So it's if you can get a rookie that gets you those 4 or 5, but then you also bring a guy in that gets you 3 or 4, and a Davenport can get you 4 or 5. And if you could find that production elsewhere, you don't need a number 2. The people, again, I've said it a million times, the people banging the table for the Trey Hendricksons never was realistic. Don't talk to me until you can show me real conversations about that number 2 spot, that other edge spot.
Yeah, Grenard actually had 12 sacks. My bad.
It's big.
Who?
Jonathan Grenard.
Yeah, he played.
Sacks. Van Ginkel had 14.
Yeah, that's did he really? Oh my God.
Van Ginkel was a defensive player of the year. Saying he was defensive player of the year, but he was
might have been a finalist actually.
He was. I'm pretty sure he was.
By the way, halftime, real quick, just saw it. Lakers Mavericks. Luka has 31 of the Lakers 60.
That's crazy.
At halftime, he has 6.
And they're winning.
That's crazy work.
I would love to be in that building, dude. I love Luka, man.
Yeah,
have you guys ever seen Luka in person play?
I've not.
No, that's on my bucket list for sure.
One of my favorite life sports moments: Luka Doncic, Dirk Nowitzki.
Oh, that'd be awesome.
Same game down in Orlando. Got to see him play the Magic. It was Dirk's last season too, so it was this is unreal.
Well, let's bring in the Maakaron magic. John Maakaron covers the Lions for Sports Illustrated. Go check out. Me and Doc chopped it up for 30+ minutes on Lions. It's all Detroit Lions on Sports Illustrated. He's crushing it. He's got his own YouTube channel and everything. We had some good conversations. We're going to have more conversations today with the Doc because he joins us every single Wednesday, 8:45. It's the best segment in sports, in my opinion. So let's bring him on, Mr. John Maakaron. How we doing, John?
Fellas, how we doing? It's a good Wednesday. All is good, man. What's going on?
Well, Doc, it seems like it's the season of all the visits. You know, they're bringing in prospects, they're bringing in free agents. I guess I'll start with the free agent because it's fresh, DeMarcus Walker. You know, and it's not more so about the player, but is it safe to assume, Doc, that they're kind of fielding options just in case this Zadarius Smith thing doesn't work out necessarily, not putting all your eggs in one basket?
Yeah, absolutely. Chat, what's up? What's going on? Hope everybody's well. It's fucking cold in Michigan. My God, I want to go back to Florida, and it makes you want to cuss. My goodness, 30 degrees. I mean, here's the crappy part. I had tickets to go to Monday's game against the Yankees, good seats provided by the company. I couldn't even go. It was so cold. Couldn't even take my nephew to get out there, but my goodness. But let's fire it up with Lions chat. I was look, Brad Holmes said that they're still trying to evaluate all of the needs out there in free agency, and edge rusher is clearly one of them. They're trying everybody. And look, there's a player that's decent, but I don't think that he's even on Marcus Davenport's level. He had a good year a couple years ago, but just reading the tea leaves, visited with the Giants. I think the Giants might have an inroads because their defensive coordinator was on the coaching staff when he was a couple years ago, I believe, with the Titans, had his best year. But I look at it from the perspective of the Lions. They're going to try and really research as many defensive linemen as humanly possible to get out there and try to complement Marcus Davenport and Aiden Hutchinson. So, but really in the end, right now, as we speak, the biggest, unfortunately the starting, on the depth chart is Marcus Davenport. And then closely, we expect most likely will be in the draft, the player they select, hopefully in the first round. But, I look at it and this would be the definition of a role player if they were to bring him on. But I don't think that that's a player that would definitely change the fortunes of the Lions defensive line.
Doc, can I ask you, I want to throw this out there too, because we had this conversation this week. And by the way, good to see it, Doc. It's been a week. Hope you've had an amazing week, opening day, all of that. Hope you enjoyed everything. But I want to go back to earlier in the week. I think it was Monday or Tuesday. We had a segment on our show. I cannot remember where we got it and who it was, but talking about how often that the Detroit Lions, when they have guys on top 30s or they meet with guys at the combine, those are typically guys that they draft in the first couple rounds. Is there on your in your end, is there anyone that stands out, or maybe even a few guys that stand out specifically that they have met with to where you're like, I think that that's going to happen and that's going to almost be a done deal because they, the fit and constantly meet with them? Is there anyone that stands out to you? I think we lost Doc.
I didn't know if my screen was frozen and my Wi-Fi bug was.
Oh no!
I asked the question and I was like, oh no, the Doc stone
Look at him. I mean, he is just dialed into the question right now. Yeah, we'll get him back.
He got the Doc back. He's already here. He's in the waiting room.
Yeah, he look at, oh, there he is.
Oh, he was there, but he just left again.
Are we back?
No,
look at that. The talk is so say one cuss word and the internet boots me out. Hopefully the internet connection is not terrible. But Booner, look, the internet gods don't want you to take another L in a debate with the Doc.
Oh,
there's no debate. This is a normal question, Doc. I'm not debating.
No, going back to last week.
My New Year's resolution: don't debate anymore, Booner. That's what it is.
Oh no, that ain't gonna happen.
That is such a load of shit, Booner. That is you failed at that resolution probably on January 1st.
Doc, were you able to hear the question, or do you need me to repeat it?
No, I didn't hear the question. What's up?
The question was, we had the conversation about how most of the guys that they actually meet with on the top 30 visits and in the combine, you see a kind of a relation of them actually drafting those guys in the first two rounds. Are there any guys specifically to you that kind of stood out that you've seen them come in on visits, whether it's the combine or the top 30, that you think that guys like we should all keep our eye on and that actually have a really good chance of happening?
Yeah, no, the visits are key. You look at how the Lions operate. You've seen Branch come in, Arnold. They do take a plethora of players that do come in. And here's why. The research that they do on these players is immense. And you see these opportunities that the Lions want to have. And that's why the strategy has been for the Lions to kind of really focus on the draft more than free agency because of all the work the area scouts do, the scouts that talk to Brad Holmes, they want to have an opportunity to go up on the chalkboard and have a player. We did a story today. Matt Derry got a great interview with an Auburn linebacker, and he detailed what goes on. And basically, it's a position coach goes up there, draws up some scheme plays, and wants to know, hey, can you go out there and repeat and understand what it is that we're teaching you? How fast is your recall? How fast can you learn a concept that we're trying to accomplish? So the Lions want to do their due diligence. That's why those visits are important. Those top 30 are key, but they have made some draft picks in regards to the, who's been here with the Lions where they didn't come to visit. So it's one of those deals where the Lions kind of haven't, the way they've done it and the way they've explained it is they know who they like. And sometimes they want to bring in certain guys to kind of further enhance what they know about a player. But some guys, they just know based on the film, based on investigating with the coaches. If for instance, a coach is on the Lions and they know of a player and they have a relationship with the university, they can go get the information without having an official visit. So there's a lot of ways to evaluate, but the Lions have done a real good job clearly in regards to who they want to bring in, targeted players that they believe could help this football team. And I love their process because clearly the guys that they bring in are gritty. They are guys that can have high football IQ. And I think the biggest thing that the Lions look for in the guys that they want to bring in is, do they love the game of football? Are they passionate? Do they eat, sleep, breathe the game? And if they do, then they're willing to take on guys to help and bring on and develop. And they might not even be as talented maybe as some other guys, but that don't love the game. And that's what it's a reflection of Dan Campbell, because probably right now as we speak, definitely probably watching some film and looking at some tight ends that can block.
And Doc, kind of going hand in hand with that question, something that I saw that was very interesting. The Lions are reportedly showing interest in Maxwell Harrison, the cornerback out of Kentucky. And we've been in this offseason, we even talked to you about it, especially Ennis Rakestraw. And news came out about that. And I don't know if you guys saw, but like last night, Ennis Rakestraw kind of put out a cryptic tweet just saying, like, you're going to continue to doubt me. Have no clue if it relates to the Detroit Lions. But let's say the Lions do take a player like Maxwell Harrison because it falls into, well, we think he fits the Lions philosophy, and it's BPA. Maybe he's sitting there early in the second round. They want to move up, or maybe they're sitting at 28 when that's their guy. What do you think that chances are that Harrison's drafted, let alone a corner in general, and how does that impact Rakestraw going into year two?
Yeah, well, clearly, here's something that happened that unfortunately is a little bit tough for Ennis Rakestraw. All right, Brad Holmes comes out, and he's direct, but it can be taken in a way. Brad Holmes said in his talk with the media, look, we had to go out and get DJ Reed. It's not a reflection of Ennis Rakestraw, but he was hurt. We don't know what he brings to the table. And he said directly to the reporters, he was, not healthy enough for us to get an eval and for us to trust him moving forward. We had to go out and get a defensive back. So what Ennis is basically indicating is that people are questioning him. They felt like maybe first and foremost, he was undersized. And second of all, he was hurt last year coming into the draft. And then he suffered a bunch of injuries in training camp and was nicked up a little bit, still healing. The Lions took it easy with him. And then unfortunately, he didn't really make much of an impact. And you juxtapose that with the two defensive backs that the Eagles got, you get a little bit of a different view of a player. So I look at Ennis Rakestraw as he had a redshirt year. He learned a little bit on special teams. He got opportunities, but yeah, he's got to earn his keep. And he's a right now a question mark. And that's what Brad Holmes said, is that we still don't know. We have faith in him, and they always say that. But he said that we couldn't just rely on Ennis Rakestraw and just not have evaluations on free agent cornerbacks. And I do believe they're going to probably take one in the draft. So he does have a lot to prove. He said in his season-ending conference, I got to get, my body right. I'm going to put in the work, and I got to come back and prove that I belong. And hopefully he can, because that would be a big bonus to play alongside DJ Reed, Terry and Arnold, and Amik Robertson. If you get anything out of Ennis Rakestraw, that's a bonus for Kelvin Shepard. But right now, he's a big question mark.
Yeah, Doc, we talked on the Lone Wolves podcast earlier about just kind of the wide receiver position and Jameson and how Brad's quote was pretty telling based on the 5th-year option thing. And it's safe to assume everyone believes in J-Mo. Okay, everyone thinks he's an incredible player. But with that being said, the contract's going to be pretty massive given he's very talented. The market's going up, and trying to re-sign a guy like that, along with Amon-Ra, Panay, having a $50+ million quarterback, it's going to be hard. And then you have Laporta coming up. Now, if it is cheaper, maybe they can get it done. But assuming he's going to want max money, as he should, how do you think the Lions address that? I know it's in 2 years, but do you think it should be something they push to next year, and maybe this year you replace just Tim Patrick? Or how do you think the Lions, in your opinion, will kind of prioritize finding wide receiver talent in terms of how high in the draft, maybe, whatever you think?
Yeah. I look at it like Jameson. It's a unique dilemma, right? If he has a big season this year, then his price goes up, and the market is crazy, and the cap is going up, relatively high. It's going up about 20 million, 30 million a year, but you may allocate those funds for guys like Brian Branch and Sam Laporta and Jahmyr Gibbs down the road. And you could argue that wide receiver is the easiest position to replace, but you can't replace that speed. I mean, he's got, superstar elite top 3 wide receiver speed. So I look at it like, unfortunately, you got to kind of play the NFL business game with Jameson, and you give him the 5th-year option. It's still great money, and you have him under control for 2025 and 2026. And then you see what he brings to the table. You may go down the road like T. Higgins. You give him 1 year on a franchise tag, and then you have him for the next 3 years, and then you could potentially, in this year's draft or next year's, get a wide receiver. Look, it's tough because I do think he's going to emerge and be a player that a lot of people will respect: touchdowns, speed, explosiveness. But how many $30 million wide receivers can one team have when it's a position that you can find in the draft? Relatively speaking, you're not going to get the same level of speed, but you can get a tall, physical, and speedy wide receiver, relatively speaking, in the draft. And based on how the league is going, it's very hard for a lot of teams, because look at the Bengals. They got Jamar Chase and T. Higgins, but they're having a hard time finding the funds to pay the NFL sack leader. Well, given that Aiden Hutchinson is going to make $40 million a year or more, and given that Kirby Joseph's going to make $20 million or more, there's only so many dollars to go around. I think that you clearly know that Jahmyr Gibbs is the apple of Brad Holmes' eye. He's not going to just let Jahmyr Gibbs walk. I feel like he'll get another. I think the odds are pretty good that Jahmyr will get a nice contract in Detroit. And so you got to start saying, who's the odd man out? Most likely, you're starting to look at Jameson Williams as one of those targets. But hey, it's up to Jameson Williams. His job is to make sure to make it difficult on the Lions, and his job is to go out there and ball, which I think he will, to earn a hefty contract. So it's going to be an interesting dilemma for Jameson Williams. But there's some wide receivers in this draft that you could target that are big-bodied and speedy as well. But I'm of the opinion that if Jameson, my opinion is, if he balls out and he's a guy that can get up there over 1,200 yards and over 10 touchdowns, might be worth it to give him a similar contract to Amon-Ra and say, hey, look, you want to be on a good team, take this 30, 31 million. But if you break the bank, there's going to be some situations where maybe you're not on as good a team. So maybe, I don't typically advocate for hometown deals, but maybe Jameson will take one, relatively speaking, if it's clear that he's not the number one, because right now Amon-Ra's number one. So we'll see, but it's a huge dilemma, because if this year comes up and he blows out and he's like just dominating and gets like 1,500 yards, 15 touchdowns, now you're talking in the neighborhood of, being one of the highest paid wide receivers, and that's looking at north of 120 million. And that's a big, interesting situation for the Lions to be in.
Muted Bone.
Sorry, my mic.
Hit that unmute button.
My mic just keeps going in and out over here. It keeps muting me on the stream. It's unbelievable. You brought up a good point though, Doc. T. Higgins kind of just went through it to where T. Higgins could be a number one, and he takes wide receiver 2 money to stay in Cincy to go win a Super Bowl. Talking contracts though, Doc, one thing I think is really interesting, I want to get where your thoughts are on it, is the Aiden Hutchinson and the Kirby deals, because we haven't really seen them get done yet, but we did see last year these deals get done around the draft. Jared Goff, who was it? Panay Sewell, Amon-Ra. All three of those guys get done around the week of the draft. The difference between, in my opinion, to this year is there's been a lot of edge rushers that have signed pre-draft already. And last year, Brad was kind of the first GM in when it comes to signing players at certain positions. Do you think these two deals are going to get done pretty soon, or do you think that the agents are going to look at it and say, hey, let's just keep waiting until more deals get done in the safety room, in the edge room, and we can get a higher price? How do you think that'll work out for the Lions and those two players?
Yeah, no, relatively speaking, I don't think Trey Hendrickson, because of his, north of 30 age, his productivity is great. I don't think he's going to, reset the market. Antoine Winfield, I believe, sets the market with the Bucks. I think at just at a little over 21 million a year. So I think it's relatively set. For Aiden, it may be one of those situations where there's a little bit more negotiations based on what they want to give him and what they feel and what Aiden wants to do. But I feel like, relatively speaking, that these deals could, there have been deals that have gone into training camp. I do think that with Aiden, you might just want to wait until you see what he does in some of the offseason workouts before you levy a big contract on him. Kirby Joseph, I probably would expect that you're going to see that deal pretty much sealed up here and probably in the next 4 weeks or so. There would be no reason. I mean, I don't think he's going to, want to reset the market so much. I think he's probably going to be in the neighborhood of $22, $23 million annually, and just going to be on terms and years and all that good stuff, guaranteed money. But you just see how much fun he's having chasing deers and all the fun stuff he does online in the community. So it's a guy that I think will have no problem securing a hefty deal. Aiden's may be more complicated because of the injury and because I do think Aiden's camp is going to want to definitely set the market for what he can bring to the table. But it's delicate with guaranteed money, and a lot of people are looking at the starting point of at least 4 years, 160 million, a lot of at least over 125 million guaranteed. It's a lot. Do you give that 5th year, 6th year? How long do you want to give Aiden Hutchinson? Do you want to make him the highest paid right off jump, or do you want to have him be similar to Myles Garrett? And you look at it and you say, well, relatively speaking, you typically pay guys based on their potential. I would see no issue with Aiden having the ability to go out there and be like Max Crosby, be like Myles Garrett, and produce at a very, very high level. But you still got to see him out there on the football field. So I would think Kirby's is first, and Aiden's going to be probably maybe it could happen by the draft, but I would project maybe more towards the start of training camp where everything gets ironed out.
And with those signings, Doc, obviously they're going to be, should say extensions. It's going to be worth a lot of money. Is there anybody, and I know the draft is yet to come, and it's going to shake how things kind of project into training camp. Is there anybody that you think could be kind of like on a surprising cut watch for the Detroit Lions right now that have been here that fans love, or at least think will be here, that because of the money and with this draft class might not be with the team come week 1?
No, that's very good. You look at, the makeup of the roster indicates that, they've kind of have done that already with Kyle Pecco not being here. John Kaminsky retired. I would have figured if he played that his elevated age. I think the player that maybe you want to see about is DJ Reader. You want to see, he had a good year, but not to the level, and he's coming off of injury. I do think that if they go out and get an all-world defensive tackle, you might look to get younger at that spot. But he's so stout against the run. He still brings you a lot of good, really solid talent across the board and very veteran leadership. I thought that he had an okay year, but still a little bit down from the days that he had in his prime. But, you look at the team and you look at the makeup offensively. One guy that if you start to look at his numbers and what he brings to the table, if he doesn't have a good camp, Graham Glasgow did not have a good year. I understand Dan Campbell loves his versatility, but if he goes out there and is not as productive in camp, there's a chance that he does not retain. When you look at it, for sure that the rookie that they're going to draft is going to compete. Hopefully, maybe they get one in the 1st or 2nd round that can compete with Graham Glasgow. But Mahogany's right there on his tail, chasing him for playing time, and you realize, all right, he had a year in which it puts him on notice that you got to produce at a high level. But you look at it and you say probably the depth wise, players along the offensive line that haven't produced, like a Colby Sorsdahl. He's got to show something this year in regards to kind of being versatile and being able to do some things. So there's some players that are going to need some big camps because they've been a little bit quiet. And I guess I'll throw it out there to please some of the people listening. If Broderick Martin doesn't step it up, if he doesn't show what he needs to show, the Lions will cut him. Like, they recognize that there's when you have to put defensive tackle on every needs list and you start bringing in guys like Josiah Stewart and guys like Kenneth Grant to do the job, you got to kind of figure that, hey, that's an also indication that the NFL, not for long, they're looking to replace you. They're looking for competition. And they went out in free agency and got Roy Lopez. They didn't say, Broderick Martin, you're the next man up. And whenever your boss, whenever Brad Holmes comes out and the first thing that he's got to say is we need Broderick to be more consistent, that's not good in 3 years into your career. He battled injuries, but when the big bosses say, hey, we notice you can bring flashes for a minute here, but then the next flash is not as good, that's not a good thing at the NFL level. They need consistency. And when they use that word, that means they see flashes, but they don't see it enough. And if they don't see it enough, he'll be gone.
Yeah, Doc, I saw, I think it was Adam Schefter said that he expects the Eagles to be probably one of the more aggressive teams in terms of making trades, wanting to move up in the first round. Like, from what he's hearing, the Eagles, he expects to be very aggressive. And it kind of made me reflect back. I mean, every draft, the Lions seem to be super aggressive. I mean, last year, Brad traded up. He's traded up for Jameson. He's shown the ability to go up and get guys, not just in the first, but trading up for other players. I think Broderick, actually, speaking of him, was a trade up. When you look at just the first round, and you can even bring up past the first round, with Adam bringing up the Eagles, I think he's maybe forgetting how aggressive Brad has been. How aggressive do you think Brad will be and kind of approach this draft, not just the first round, but throughout the entirety of it, going and getting his guys?
Yeah, no, there's no doubt that if the Lions find a guy that fits, they trade up for him. Traded up for Broderick Martin, traded up for, I believe you look at it and you say, hey, moving up to get a cornerback, that's pretty much not all that typical for this regime. So they have no problem when they identify somebody that they feel like fits. And I think they would do it in the first round for an edge rusher if they feel like, and I go back and forth, but I feel like edge is such a key position. And you have to know that, okay, Marcus Davenport slotted in, but he's not reliable just yet. You can't just pin your hopes on Marcus Davenport. So I would think that there's a guy that they had to say, okay, this could fit and work across from Aiden and could be a developmental player. But there could also be a player like a Gray Zabel or an offensive lineman that they feel, hey, could be the future, a nice swing guard tackle that can do a lot of different things. And you hear that the Lions definitely are going to get back to work in the trenches. Yeah, Brett Holmes is not afraid to maneuver the draft. I do think that this draft provides opportunities for them to move up and down. Maybe down is a better strategy in regards to getting more assets in this year's draft because of the fact that a first-round pick, you got to give them that fifth-year option. And with a team that has so many contracts coming up, if you can get an extra pick in the third round, fourth round, or something next year, then you go ahead and do it. But yeah, no, Brett Holmes is not somebody that's just going to sit back. That makes it tough. It's fun when you're in that room and you got your paperwork ready. You got all the draft prospects lined up on your screens. And all of a sudden, Brad Holmes, like there was, last year, Brad was all over the place, but it was, it makes it fun because you know that if the Lions have a player that they want, they're going to get them. And I think you always vote for aggression in a lot of ways in sports. And unfortunately, it's not that way for free agency, but in the draft, whole different ball game. That's the spot where guys like Howie Roseman and Brad Holmes. And if you look at the trades that he's made, very rarely is he taking the very far worst end of it in regards to value. They will sacrifice a little bit of value to get guys, but you got to swing a little bit better than trading up for Broderick Martin as well. And Giovanni Manu projects don't typically, make it so that fans are a little bit excited. I think that's one of the goals, hopefully, that you and I talked about, Jeff, is that no projects this year. If you're going to trade up for a guy that's going to step out day one and compete super hard with one of the starters to get out there and start. So I'm excited for the draft. I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be very fun to see how Brad Holmes gets down and restocks his team.
Hey, stay on that topic real quick, Doc, because this is something that we had a conversation yesterday. I kind of brought it to the boys, and there was a little heated debate. It wasn't really a heated debate. We actually ended up agreeing on the whole situation, but like a shocking move from Brad Holmes. We talked about yesterday, and it was really Russell who kind of talked about it on the heavyweights, but that, hey, if all the edge rushers are off the board, all the offensive linemen are off the board, and you're sitting there and your BPA is like a Luther Burden, or it's one of these wide receivers, or it's a random position. We've seen Brad coach Amir Gibbs. We've seen him take a linebacker in the top 20. Like, he is not afraid to make those moves. What do you think one like bold move and like a little bit of a shocking move that Brad Holmes would make? What do you think one move like that would be for him in this draft class?
Yeah, no, absolutely. That's the thing that I asked Jeff. I thought I didn't hear you guys' debate. I can't wait to get after this interview, check out what you guys were yelling and screaming about yesterday. But I could see the debate. You know, that was the headline of our podcast was, could Brad Holmes make a shocking trade or shocking move in regards to restocking this team in the first round? Because everybody thinks it's edge or offensive line. What would be shocking? Well, I think the shocking move would be if you traded a, pick for an asset, an established player. I think that would be shocking. Maybe you package a first round pick and you get that Trey Hendrickson move and you make it happen on draft day. That would be shocking. That door is still slightly open, even though it's relatively speaking, realistically closed. But that would be shocking, is to go out there and get a proven player for draft picks. I think, all the other moves that could be made. Look, you can make an argument for. I mean, I would be shocked if it was for I think the shocking move, I think relatively speaking, realistically, that I think many people are not expecting and kind of have dismissed, and Jeff and I talked about it, is if James Pierce is there and they take him, I think that would be pretty surprising, because by all accounts, by all the people that talk about him, that he doesn't kind of fit the narrative of what the Lions want. They kind of believe that, he's a player with some question marks and is a guy that may not be the exact best fit in the locker room, but he's got some high upside. So could the Lions take a risk on a guy that doesn't check every single personality box? That would be a little bit surprising. But, I think that relatively speaking, the surprise move would be if they went with an offensive skill position. If they did go with wide receiver, I would not be surprised. I mean, I'm open to it. I've talked about it at Lions on SI, that Brad Holmes, it's clear when he says it, he's not lying. Brad Holmes says we are not a needs-based team. So let's just hope that the 28th best player, that hopefully it's not a wide receiver. I'm hoping that they find, and I'm hoping, fingers crossed, because it's a big area of need. I'm hoping, and I did a story where I predicted each position that they would take with each round. And I feel like it should go, in my opinion, should go edge rusher, probably offensive line, then D tackle would be the best ideal fit. But yeah, there'd be a lot of surprising moves, especially maybe they move up and get one of the bigger name edge rushers that nobody's talking about. So maybe you move up and you get into the top 10 if you just find the absolute stud. But a lot of moves have to be made in front of you to have some guys drop that would be intriguing. I just hope they don't do it for, a player that is a little bit more question mark, like Shamar Stewart, who just was productive, but not productive enough to the level where you would say, oh, he's a slam dunk. So we'll see. I can't wait to see. It's going to be fun too, to see if they do move up, how far would they get into the top 15, top 14? Where would they go up to get a guy? Because there's some good edge rushers in that 12 to 18 mix.
Doc, unfortunately, at that last part there, you kind of answered the question I was going to ask, but I'll make you expand on that thought a little bit more. And it's because it's a very polarizing pick on the show and in the chat. When you look at Shamar Stewart, I'm on the camp of, if this was a second-round pick, I'd be all for it. But in the first round with the edge rushers available, again, context with the board needs to be there. If there's literally nobody else there in the first round, they take Shamar Stewart at 28. I'll have to eat shit and just hope that I'm proven wrong. But where do you stand on Shamar Stewart as far as in the first round for the Lions?
No, good question. He's an intriguing prospect. You like his size. You like what he can bring to the table in regards to pass rush, but he's got to be consistent. Like, you got to deliver. And there are a little bit more question marks regarding his ability to get home to the quarterback and finish. So you kind of get the early Levi Onwuzurike label, kind of, where you like what he can do, the potential, but you just haven't seen him close at the level of other guys, like a Donovan Ezeriku or others as well, that can get after the quarterback and finish. So I'm excited to see, the mix of guys that are there. I feel like the Lions probably would be more intrigued with Nick Scourton a little bit more and Donovan, based on the productivity that they've had. But Shamar Stewart's intriguing. I do think that, coaches, and the one thing that's for me, because I have not met him yet, not talking to Casey Rogers, you wonder, is he a player that could fit what Casey Rogers would want to mold? So I'm intrigued. I'm fascinated to see what he could bring to the table. I'm of the opinion that if he were to be drafted by Detroit, I think with the leadership that the Lions have with Marcus Davenport, Aiden Hutchinson, and Levi and the players along the defensive line with the coaching staff, I feel like they could make it work. But you're right, there's more question marks, and you want to have more of a sure thing. And especially, I think the prevailing thought among the fans is you want an edge rusher that you think could compete at the highest level to dethrone Marcus Davenport. And Shamar Stewart might be a guy that might take a little bit longer. And that's okay, as long as you get there by the third or fourth quarter of the season. But at the same token, that, in the absence of buzz and free agency, we all want a guy that's very agile, that has shown some things on film that can do the job. And unfortunately, Shamar Stewart hasn't done enough to at least wow the fans over at this point.
Well, Doc, a player that I'm excited to see if the Lions can continue to mold and if this player can keep stepping up is Giovanni Manu. I want to ask you about the Giovanni Manu stock and where you think it's going, because Dan already hinted at him playing guard. You're seeing him work out with Taylor Decker, left tackle. So maybe he can play more than just guard, Doc, but where are you at now in your confidence level in the Giovanni Manu stock as we head into the season?
Yeah, fun topic to talk about, right? Stock watch. Hopefully today's news helped everybody out that's in that particular market. Definitely, I peeked at it today. I was like, "Ooh, that's a little bit better than what's happened in the first couple weeks of the month of first couple end of March and early April." So thank goodness for today. But word wise, don't do too much stock watching outside of sports. But with Giovanni Manu, let's look at it like this. I would say that he's plateaued. Like, you can't say that his stock is rising. He's a developmental raw prospect who played in Canada. And his first year was a year in which he was basically redshirted and learned fundamentals and had to learn the game and learn how to handle these massive defensive linemen. So I do think he'll get more of an opportunity, but he's got a long way to go in terms of anchoring, setting, his footwork, hand placement, consistency. You're not going to put him at guard. He's a big, I think it's funny. You could do it and rotate him in and learn, and for the cross training and versatility and all that fun stuff, but you don't typically see guards of that size for the majority of their career. But, you would project, ideally, in the ideal world, year two, more development, more progress, more strength, being able to handle what he needs to do. Then you hope in a couple years, maybe in 2026, 27, he's the right tackle of the future if Penei Sewell moves to the left side. So I'm excited for what he can bring to the table, but you can't say his stock is down because he's got the physical size and he just really is the intangibles are just jump off the chart. But now the toughest part is you got to learn the NFL game, and it's not, you can't just learn it in 1 year. And I do think he'll come back stronger. He'll come back with a lot more confidence. And I love the fact that we're seeing videos. I love when teammates work out together at the same offensive line camp. It's great to see. It's fun. It's great to see the workouts. So I'm excited for the opportunity for Manu to get out there and develop this year. It'll be fun to see the reports, where he plays and how he matches up. But right now, stock neutral. You don't buy the stock, you don't sell the stock. You just if you have belief in Manu, hold on to it. There's opportunities for him to make some more noise in 2025.
All right, Doc, I'm going to hit you with the hard-hitting question here. Not a lot of people want to have the conversation. I've seen it out there yesterday. Should Steve Eisman be fired, yes or no? Simple as that. Let me hear what you think.
Oof, that's a great question. Great debate. That's it's unfortunate in sports. 6 years not in the postseason. You get lapped by Montreal. It's not good. Let's just look at 2025. Wasn't Steve Yzerman's best year in regards to free agent acquisition. You still don't have a goalie. Look, the way I perceive it is Steve Yzerman's supposed to be top of the class. You know, you equate him, at least perception-wise, as a general manager like Brad Holmes. And he's looking more like Al Avila and Troy Weaver. And that's not the class you want to be in with the esteem that he has. And look, you can make excuses. You can say, well, Kenny Holland gave him all this disaster, gave him all this. But I'm going to say, and, you know, and thinking about it logically, you ride it out because he's the one that's if you're going to go with all these young players in the next couple of years, you then got to find a little bit more of a balance of, hey, get these young guys up here, find a goalie, and surround them with free agency. That's what the Pistons did. They just went out and got Beasley and Tobias Harris, and look what happened. You tripled the win total. What's concerning is for those that doubt and say he should be fired. So I'm going to say, no, he doesn't deserve to be fired. You want to see through, but he must change the strategy. This strategy is terrible. This strategy, and what's been alarming is the core are mentally soft and weak, and 3 years in a row collapsing. That's not what Detroit fans look for. And I'm even open to entertaining the idea of shopping Dylan Larkin. If you need to restock, I mean, if you're a leader of a hockey club and every year you're making the poo-poo sad face because your team falls apart, something's wrong with the leadership in that locker room. And I think that the talent is not performing at the level that it should. There's more talent than they're performing. I don't think they're all-world team, but they should be able to at least get to the postseason. But Steve Yzerman is taking far too long to develop young talent. Look, Montreal's got second-rounders playing, contributing. Montreal, and I think that there's some small maneuvers that you would say, why not buy out Hull? Why would you move on from Wallman and have an opportunity where another club flips them for a better deal than what you have? And Gostisbehere was a solid player that I think could have still contributed. So some moves that he's making, he's given contracts, and some of the moves that he's picked, the guys that he's brought in, JT Compher, just haven't been good enough. So I'm disappointed in what Steve Yzerman has done. But I think next year's the year where it's do or die. You got to get to the postseason. It's make or break. What was crazy was last spring, everyone was talking like this year could be a regression year openly. And I just thought that there should have been a little bit more urgency to progress and surround the young core with some more talent. And it's like, look, if you kind of knew that already, then caution to the wind. I don't care about Talbot. I don't care about Husso. I don't care about Mrazek. Just play Kosa. Let him get the experience this year. Take a step back, and then you got the goalie of the future for the next couple years. So a lot of the moves you could question. Steve Yzerman probably had his worst year as a general manager this last 12 months, and that's not the standard here in Detroit. It's not good enough, and it's disheartening. It's frustrating. And if you're a Steve Yzerman supporter, you don't got legs to stand on other than there's hope. But that's the only thing, if you're sticking with Steve Yzerman, is that, hey, he got a lot of young prospects. You now got to throw them out there on the ice and see what they got. And I'm waiting to see them. So by all accounts, they are good hockey players, but I don't give a crap about what goes on in Grand Rapids. I want LCA to be rocking. And right now it's looking like the Dead Wings era back in the 80s. It's disappointing because he's supposed to be special. This ain't special. Losing to Montreal in that fashion, 1-1, and then collapsing in the third, indicative of a shitty season. And really, in the end, you can't, be terribly surprised. They told you it was going to happen. And I think the biggest indictment is everybody and their mom knew that Lalonde was not the guy. They should have made that move far, far sooner, and you might have had a chance to make the postseason with the squad that they had. I think if you would have fired Lalonde 3 weeks sooner, you probably are a playoff team.
And Doc, a team that I know it's early in the season, but they look like a playoff team right now is the Detroit Tigers. And I know they dropped one today against the Yankees, but I talked to you after the White Sox series. What did you make of the series against New York, especially after tough series against LA, bounce back against the White Sox, and then you're able to have success against New York, who's another premier team in the MLB? What did you make of it, the positive and the negatives?
Yeah, well, let's start with the negative because I want to end on a positive note. The defense, man, is god awful. Oh my God, Colt Keith. I hate to joke, but that video of him throwing the ball 40 feet wide at first base couple days ago was effing hilarious, man. My show, I said, nephew, look at this, because he plays second base, and it's just funny to see a professional athlete rush and throw the ball 40 feet wide. It's looking like it. And then he had another error, I believe, today. It was going to be tough for the Lions for the Tigers to sweep the Yankees. What sucks is, just to intro the series, it sucked because the only time the Yankees come to town, it's freezing cold. I had an opportunity to go to Monday's game, but it was so cold, moving it to 3:00. I had things to do. I just couldn't get down there. I was excited to get down there at 6:00, but I didn't want to freeze my balls off. So no games for me for the Yankees because of the timing switch. So that always sucks. But first and foremost, let's give credit where credit's due. Carpenter and Torkelson are carrying this squad, and that's great to see, man. Torkelson took a lot of crap from people like me and everyone out there, and he's shutting us up. He's highlighting that, you know what, baseball, similarly, if you want to be patient, hockey takes time for number one picks and top guys to kind of develop, and he's out there raking, and credit to him. Carpenter is doing some great things. You love to see that box office. And then I love why I told you guys the entertaining but also maybe factual gambling tip is that this baseball team can win games with pitching. Tariq Skubal and Flaherty, 1-2 combination, should not be too many long losing streaks. So it's a fun baseball team to watch inning by inning. And I mean, the games are going 2 hours, 2.5 hours. So you can watch them as much as humanly possible and get after it. So I'm excited. But look, every team has holes. Kreidler, adventure. You would think that he'd be a little bit more surefire out there, but he makes things look a little bit more adventurous than possible. But I'm loving the start, at least after losing and getting swept by the Dodgers, to come back and dominate. I thought I was at the game against the White Sox where they came back. I wanted to see Jackson Jobe. He had difficulty locating his pitches, but loved the spin rate and what he can bring to the table with velocity. His velo was great. He just was having a little bit of a hard time locating his main pitches, and he got knocked around a little bit. But they came back, and that's gritty. You would be hard pressed to be happy if you were to lose any games to the White Sox. Man, the White Sox are atrocious. So that's why I was a little bit cautious to give Torkelson his flowers. I was in the camp of, hey, do it against the Yankees, and he did. And let's keep it going. And then we just got to, for now, because it's going to eventually fall off the map, Javi, over 310 batting average. Clap for Javi. Good. We'll take the 2-week MVP award. We'll take whatever we can get. Hey, he worked a 3-2 count yesterday. That was good to see. Got himself a walk as well. So we'll take anything out of Javi Baez in his basement number 9 spot in the order. We'll take anything. But it's a fun team to watch. I'm excited to have the credential and go out there as much as humanly possible. But it's just fun to be competitive. And that's where I expect this team to land between 85 and 92 wins and be very competitive with that pitching staff. It's all excitement, man. Hop aboard the bandwagon. Let's jump aboard and support this baseball team because they're fun to watch. They got some young talent that you can watch develop. And you just hope that Parker Meadows can stay healthy for the better part of the season.
Doc, I want to ask you a player you mentioned, Spencer Torkelson. He's playing extremely well. He's hitting the ball well. I mean, we won some money on some home runs he had this year. He has 3 on the year. But your faith in his ability to keep it up, be consistent, because the more I've been reading, it seems like a majority of MLB media giving their opinion on this hot start. They believe he can keep it up. But what say you, Doc? Your faith that he can at least keep it up? Maybe not this level, but for most of the MLB season, and especially come postseason time, how much they're going to need this Spencer Torkelson.
Yeah, I'm an expert on knowing if he could keep it up, right? I could know. Let's see. Can he be consistent with his bat? Absolutely. I think that literally, and I said it on the Doc and Jock podcast, which comes out tomorrow. I said, you know what? This is a situation in which maybe the way the Tigers handled him was beautifully executed. They were telling him, hey, you're going to be a DH. We don't want you in the field every day. We want you to potentially maybe take a back seat to Colt Keith. And he's come out there and handled it properly. And I feel like that the organization maybe lost a little bit of faith in him. And his job was to go out there and reestablish that, hey, I can be a contributing player. Former number 1 overall pick. You saw glimpses of that, but then he was not consistent. I think that once you mix confidence with experience and then his preparation, I do think that he's going to be a player that maybe he'll have a lull with the home runs and the batting average, but I do think he'll be a guy that is going to want to be up there when there's runners in scoring position, driving runs. And I do think he's going to have a good season. And what's great too is Casey Mize deserves the same level of credit. You always wonder about players that come back from the Tommy John, and that second year is always one of those years you want to pay attention to. And Casey Mize out there dealing. He did some things to shut down the Yankees lineup. So two guys that if you get bonus production from Casey Mize and Spencer Torkelson, oh, now we're talking business. Now we got to just figure out some of the holes that sometimes, take over a lineup with Kreidler and Ibanez and some of the role players. If you can get a little bit more out of them, hey, you're excited. And then you got some guys in the minors and Max Clark that everyone's raving about. So it's great. It's a nice mix of young talent and maybe a mix where at the deadline, if they're right around that top spot for the division, you maybe add another bat. And now we're talking business.
Doc, I mean, Ro, I want to bring this up because we talked about it yesterday on our show. This Tigers team's doing what they're doing now, but they have guys like Parker Meadows still at some point going to come back. Hopefully Matt Vierling, Gleyber Torres. Do you think we're just kind of scratching the surface with this team right now? Like, I mean, they're already 7-5 at the moment. Is this about to end up just being a powerhouse team when these guys come back? Do you think they'll be able to kind of take even another step and kind of start dominating to where it's hey, this is a team's going to be a problem in October?
Yeah, you look at it and you say, let's just look at what the strengths are. They're moving guys over. They're fundamentally sound. They're aggressive on the bases. You like it. Now you just got to also shore up the defense. So, and here's the best part. The division outside of the Guardians, I'm not that impressed with. So I'm pretty happy that there's opportunities for this team to pull away. And look, telling series coming up against the Baltimore Orioles, they're the team that's been doing some things out east. So you want to see how they do the rest of the month. And I think that, baseball, what's great is it's a long season. So you want to be able to peak right around September and get after it for the last 30 days of the season. So I listen, reinforcements are great. You just hope that you can count on guys like Parker Meadows and Vierling and Gleyber Torres. So it stinks. Now here's the tough part. I'm not as excited about Cobb. I'm reading the tea leaves that maybe Job is going to be the odd man out. I hope that's not the case. You would think that, if you can protect Jackson Job and let him get that fifth start, Cobb to me is going to be crazy, to look at and see, because right now the confidence level is low that he can do some things. He's basically on the couch and the Tigers are like, hey, you want to come out and pitch? And he's like, all right, I'll do something for you. And I just don't have confidence in him, but I just think that with this baseball club, they're likable, they're gritty. And I think that they're a baseball club that is going to play to the final out. And I'm very impressed by it. And I like the makeup of the youth and the experience on this roster. And I just think 2-3 more players would make this a lot more enjoyable if you have a more established bats.
And kind of going with the 2 or 3 more players that you mentioned, Doc, do you think if the Tigers keep on this streak that come trade deadline, we'll now see them be a little bit more open to open up the money and making more trades for this team? Yeah,
that's the goal, right? You have some assets in the minors. If you can trade it for an established player, make a run. You were close last year. You were basically, you could argue, maybe 2-3 bats away from being able to compete and eliminate the Guardians. It was a historic run that they made. And so you hope that the front office will cash in and be able to, maybe take on a contract that you wouldn't expect, maybe a bat on a team that doesn't contend anymore. So I'm excited to see the potential, but yeah, I know the fans are a little bit down on Chris Ilitch, but they did spend more, but they didn't spend on the area I think that they needed the most, which was the established right-handed bat. But if you get that from Torkelson, you maybe save some money by not having Bregman on this roster. But Bregman would have looked nice. He's producing for Boston, and that looks like a momentum building move that Boston made. And I want to say this. I just started episode 1 going into episode 2. The Red Sox baseball series from last year, Inside Look on Netflix, really good. You get a little inside look at clubhouse mentality, weird players doing some weird things, the dynamic. I love that first episode. I'm into episode 2. I peeked into what the Red Sox did last year overall with their record, but the way in which they tell the story, very interesting. It sucked that they had to, their shortstop go down with an injury early in the season. You could see the devastation of losing a player of that caliber. But Netflix does a good job of a look, and maybe one day we'll get that same look at AJ Hinch, because also too, man, that guy is so well versed, well able to detail baseball and why he does things. Whenever he's interviewed on a podcast or on the radio, always enjoy listening to AJ Hinch. And also too, what's great is he's also got a psychology background, which you need as a manager to manage all the chaos. What's fun about that baseball series is, like, the pitcher comes off the mound and is just cussing up a storm. These guys are like striking out and just causing a ruckus. You don't typically get to see that when you watch baseball. You don't typically see a foreign pitcher just screaming his head off after one of his players makes an error. It was a good first episode, and you could feel the passion of the pissed off Boston fans who are just like, directly asking the team, like, why aren't you spending? Why are we the lowest expected team in the AL East? So I loved it. I loved the passion. And but what they highlighted, which is true, is, man, if you don't get a chance to see Fenway soon, it's looking like a rickety ballpark. Might have to replace that pretty soon.
Yeah, Doc, I want to ask you now a little bit about what the Pistons are doing. I mean, they seem to be the new bad boys, or at least a modern day version of the bad boys. And then you have guys like Mike Valenti come out and say that, this thing, it's not really bad boys. That I guess culture doesn't really fit the modern NBA. Where are you at with just what the Pistons are doing, how they're winning, and then really just the playoff outlook a little bit, and what you think of what they can do in the postseason here?
Yeah, no, I heard your guys' debate. I'm listening to the debate. Listen, I think that you want to play the Knicks. It gives you the best chance. The Pacers, I don't know. Tyrese looks better than anything you got. And I don't know if the officials are going to let the Pistons play that physical brand in the postseason. So, look, amazing story, tremendous. And look, here's what I want to say. Mike Valenti tends to be contrarian at times, but if you just look at outside the point, first and foremost, there's a deep-seated loyalty to the bad boy era. They were successful. So anybody that doesn't understand that, I can understand why he doesn't understand. He's not from here. So he's got loyalties to other teams. He's not going to understand the deep-seated tie to something that is very much indicative of the spirit of the city. The fans should always embrace bad boy basketball because that's great. Physical defense, running to the basketball, establishing your ground. Why would you not want that? But I heard his whole point, which is, hey, you want talent. Like, hey, I'd rather, win a bunch of games than worry about suspension. So I understand his point, but what's also great is that the era of Piston basketball that was the most successful was when they got back to defense. Whatever you want to label it, bad boy, going to work, whatever, makes no difference to me. You just want to play good stout defense, play physical, and don't get bullied around. And I respect that. And here's the biggest thing that's endeared this fan base much more than anything that happened under Monty Williams. This team is gritty and has learned how to play in the fourth quarter. They've been figuring out ways to execute down the stretch, making key baskets. Cade Cunningham, with more talent around him, is able to operate and surgically pinpoint and figure out how to get into the lane and distribute the basketball effectively. Now, the biggest thing I think clearly now you're seeing is that without Tobias Harris, without that clear forward, it's going to be tough. So I would like this team to go out and get another stretch forward, someone that can get his own shot, be a little bit more physical and stout, and, be offensive minded. So if you do that, one or two more additions, this team can advance in the postseason. But you want to play you don't want to play the Pacers. I just don't think, and hopefully I think that it's shaping up to be the Knicks is kind of where it's trending. I think that's going to be a fun, competitive series. And I said on the podcast, I want to embarrass the Knicks on their home floor at Madison Square Garden, because more eyes and more attention will get on the Pistons when you defeat the Knicks on that stage. In that opportunity, it's who's to say that even though they might be an underdog in that series, that they don't win the series. And that's just great to say. But listen, I would not worry about what Mike Valenti says. Interact, debate them, let them know that, hey, the bad boys are integral to the spirit of the city. And maybe if you talked a little bit more basketball, you'd have a little bit more legs to stand on in regards to his arguments. But I respect his points in that you want talent. You want to focus on, hey, who's making the threes? Who are the superstars? How is Cade developing? You want your guys, you want Isaiah Stewart out there on the court. But the bad boy era you're never going to sell to this fan base not loving the bad boy here. I still got the bad boy shirts. My love of sports almost got me in trouble at school because in 1989, little 9-year-old, 10-year-old kid is trying to stay up to watch 10:30 games in Portland, and you get nervous when your mom's like walking through the hallway and you're up there under the covers trying to watch some basketball and trying to get up early. But hey, that was some of the best highlights of my life, was cheering and going through with the when the microwave made that shot. Oh man, I'll never forget the screams that were and also too, in middle school, I got to go out to the Palace as part of some school program where Isaiah and some of the guys were shooting, got to go on the court. So Pistons basketball is always intertwined. So it's why it sucked when they took a tank like that and they brought on Troy Weaver, who from day one, when he made the first, which was crazy for me because I said from day one, I'm like, day one, you made a Killian Hayes pick, I'm out. I was like, no patience. And I had to hear all the content creators be like, well, it's Killian, be patient. I'm like, I'm out. I'm not tweeting about him. I don't care. I'm out, period. Troy Weaver has lost me from that pick on. I knew it was going to be a flop. I just had to wait for the clickbait and wanting content creators to catch up a little bit that Troy Weaver was going to flop. I said that from the first moment. I'm like, Killian can't shoot, and this guy is not at the level of guys you could have taken. You could have had Halliburton. We were all like, what are you doing? Everyone's like, no, you're just too harsh. I'm like, all right, man, I'll see you in 2 years, man. I'll see you in a couple of years when this guy flames out and all the 6 centers that he picked that were bums to try and restock this roster. That was awful. That was easy to sniff out. That was the easiest assessment anybody on the Detroit sports planet could make, was Troy Weaver was a glorified scout and I had no idea what he was seeing, trying to I don't know if he just wanted to be like a deacon and reclaim all these projects that were gone. And Wiseman, everyone's like, oh, Wiseman, yeah, he can come here. I'm like, why? I'm like, the Golden State Warriors let go of Wiseman. What does that tell you? The Golden State Warriors and Bob Myers said, peace out, homie. I don't want you. And he was going to come to the Pistons and get reclaimed. He tried to reclaim so many center projects. It was a joke. You get one off season with a guy with a normal head on his shoulders. He's like, oh, I can get Malik Beasley and Tobias Harris, and boom, we triple our win total. So Trajan Langdon ran circles around Troy Weaver in 5 seconds.
Di, I'm gonna shoot it straight to you here with the Pistons. How many years out do you think they are to competing for an NBA championship? Do you think it comes next year, or do you think, hey, this is still a thing a couple years out? Where are you at with that?
Yeah, a couple of years out. I mean, you gotta deal with Boston in their prime. You got to deal with some contenders. The Pacers are growing and continuing to get opportunities and cracks at championship. So I do think that you get as far as you can this year. You surround the team with more draft picks. You got to hit on who you select in the first round next year. You surround them with free agency. There's some names that people are talking about that are big names that could potentially come in and garner some attention to help this team win. But I look at it like championship level caliber, probably 27 is when you first, like, you got to take those steps. Like this year, maybe the playoff heartbreak, or maybe you take those steps. Next year, you get a little further, and then boom, you make the push and get some talent and make some use of some of those picks in getting established players. But it's a good opportunity. Cade Cunningham only going to get better. Hopefully Ivy comes back next year strong from the injury, and you realize, man, if you surround Beasley with some more 3-point shooting help, this will be something special. And Duren and Isaiah Stewart, some good role players that are going to do some things. So, and then the young pick from this year, I really like what Holland's doing. I think that he's got some grit and some glue capabilities that you realize, hey, this is a gritty guy that wants to get better. And look, the one thing that you start to see with this team, there's a unity. I like the pre-game dancing, the excitement. They wanted to play for each other. Isaiah Stewart, when he grabbed that jersey and showed everybody Detroit, that meant something. That meant something to me, means something to everybody. Like, hey, I'm part of this. We come here and we're coming to wreck your town, and we don't care what you think about it. And that means a lot, that you're playing for the name. And I think in the past 3-4 years, maybe some more guys were playing for the name on the back of their jersey. These guys are playing for what's in front, and that's the DETROIT. And the Pistons are back, and it's been great to kind of catch back up. I was there when Trajan was introduced, a little bit bland in regards to kind of his delivery, but I like that. Cerebral assassin. and got a chance to ask Tom Gores questions directly as well. And I got a sense that, okay, they made their mistakes. They're willing to correct it. And they didn't throw me out when I asked Gores a direct question. So you can only go up from there.
And Doc, seeing the Taylor Jenkins and Mike Malone firing as far as in Memphis and in Denver, and looking at where they sit in their respective conference in the West, what do you think that kind of shifts the philosophy for head coaches and GMs when you're saying, hey, Denver Nuggets, I believe they're like the 3 seed, where they were still within I don't know, what do you want to say? They could have made a run to the finals again. Like, I don't think anybody could just write off Denver. Do you think that puts added pressure on JB and Trajan Langdon, seeing these teams that are very close to winning a title, still being able to get rid of their GM and head coaches?
Yeah, basketball is pretty finicky, right? In regards to losing locker rooms, you can lose them pretty quickly. It's just one of those deals where you're in a 4-game losing streak, 47-32 record, I believe. You got Jokic, Kurt MVP candidate. There's a lot to like, but here's the thing you always got to pay attention to is that you always got to look to, if Jokic is not happy, if there's a relationship that is going to end up going potentially sour, whatever the reasons are. And I don't follow, Nuggets basketball other than the headlines and paying attention to, I'm a big fan of what the Lakers did, pulling off that coup to get Doncic in that city. I think that's crazy. They were able to pull that off. What's going on in Dallas has been crazy. But in sports, it goes south quickly. I mean, we can relate to that here. Lalonde, I think, lost the locker room last year. He lost it and never got it back. When you're in a situation, and also too, just knowing his dad, I think Malone was kind of the coach that kind of is one of those coaches that is a yeller, that's going to get after the guys and be tough-nosed. Listen, it's a new era. You got to be that way, I think, to be successful, but you also got to mix in the love. And I think that's where Bickerstaff maybe has softened a little bit, in that I do think he learned from where things went south with Cleveland. It happened to our coach. Things went south with the playoff team. And you just wear out, when you're yelling at guys and you're not winning, you're in a situation where even championships sports are finicky. And that's why it's the age-old adage in sports. Coaches are hired to get fired. You think it's bad in the NBA? Soccer's worse. You get 3 games out of a 38-game season, you don't get points. They're calling for your head. So it's a tough business. It's a nasty business. But, hey, you take what you can get. He'll resurface somewhere else. He's got a good name and a good reputation. But sometimes in the coaching ranks, a new voice can spark a new relationship. And sometimes that's just how it goes. That's why these guys are paid pretty high. That's why they're paid handsomely, and which is crazy that the Pistons gave a guy north of $70 million to leave. And what a coup that Monty Williams pulled off to steal from the Pistons, man. What a coup.
Yeah, he's a lucky guy. Doc, we appreciate you as always. You take care, my friend. We'll see you next Wednesday. Keep up the great work. Check out Doc. You can check out more of them. Does multiple podcasts, Detroit Lions on Sports Illustrated. He does a lot of great things, but appreciate you as always.
Yes, guys. Thank you so much for having me. Sorry about the early internet connection, but maybe all the hot takes that we're about to start spewing was too hot for the internet. But hey, this hour flew by. Thank you for the time. Guys, check out the podcast I did with Jefe, and we'll get Booner and Lukas on in the near future as well.
Come on now.
Let's do it. There you go. The DOC joining the program, talking to the fellas. Does a great job. Crushes every time, boys. We got about 9 minutes left. Drop your mailbag questions, and we'll answer them. Anything, could be any sport. I was checking up on the end of that Lakers game, and Luka has 40, so slow down a little bit. But yeah, no, he's torching the Mavs, man. They're up 10, I think, right now in the 4th.
Yeah, 3 minutes to go. They'll win that game. I'm still convinced that there's a chance they win the championship.
I mean, they're a good team. They're getting bodied at. They just don't have any. The problem is is at center. Jackson Hayes he's fine, but they're going to get worked.
If you could find a way around that, I just think LeBron and Luka. It just.
But them too, yeah. Like those two on their own are just like you'll be in every game. You know what I mean? No matter what. That's
why you look at a series like the Thunder. I wouldn't be shocked if they beat the Thunder. I wouldn't be shocked if they beat the Nuggets. I'm trying to think of in the West. The West is so wide open, in my opinion.
That's
really
why,
think that.
I think if they were to play like Houston somehow, some way, like they'd work Houston. I honestly think their toughest matchup would probably be Golden State. Playoff experience, and it's a physical team again, and they're another team that you could say is not that strong with big men play. So it's like matchup wise, they're very similar.
Right now, they would
Obviously,
play Golden
Jason
State.
Steph around, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
I
literally.
think, aren't they round one? Isn't that supposed to be?
Right now, it's Golden State Lakers. If it ended today, it would be
which
Lakers
that's tough.
Golden State. That'd be a great first round though. Steph and
it'd be
LeBron.
great.
That's like an all-time matchup. We've got to see that our whole lives growing up. Getting to see that at least one last time would be pretty sweet.
Malik says, what are your thoughts on JJ Redick as a first-year head coach? Oh, we'll get to Derek's after. He actually asked one before, but we'll answer this one. I think we were all pro JJ Redick. Anyone that had doubt in their mind that he wouldn't be a good coach just doesn't know
He's
JJ
done a good
Redick.
job. Yeah,
he's an excellent coach. Excellent.
Especially the situation he's in, that Lakers team. How he's done a good job. He's a good fit for that squad.
Yeah, he is. It's a great hire. Derek says, a mailbag thoughts on when Brad starts to look for Decker and Ragnar replacements. I've got a personal connection to Frank, so it'll suck when he retires. Yeah, I mean,
this year.
Yeah, I hope they draft a center at some point. We talked about Jared Wilson.
Jake Majors.
Jake Majors. Those two guys I've really been big on, but there's more. I mean, I drafted Drew Kendall in the 7th. I mean, I would hope they take a center at some point. Decker.
Would love this year.
Would love, yeah. I would love. I think, it's tough. Maybe if you can get a guy who can, like a Gray Zabel would be perfect. He could play multiple positions. But yeah, I think soon, Derek. Definitely. More so, probably Graham. They got to replace quicker because I think that one is tough. I think for Graham. But
I think the conversation, it's like you can't replace, and like people want to, but it's like you can't replace guard, tackle, center.
No, you can't. Class. So that's why if I had to pick, like, it would be
this year, like a Gray Zabel or like someone who could potentially play different positions and could play a guard, and kind of fill in instantly if you need it for Graham. And then if there's a big time tackle that does fall to you, you can think about it. But then I think you kind of look into the future. Of that, like, and I honestly don't think, and I think there's a world, boys, to where like you draft like some type of guard, you draft a center, and I think there's a world with that tackle position. You sign someone, when Taylor Decker's done, because like Panay is going to be your like big time signing, and you can move him to left, but then you sign like a veteran tackle that is solid, to like kind of a mid-level contract, kind of like you did with Taylor Decker, but someone is kind of a little bit more reliable, and not as old at that point. So I wouldn't be shocked if that happened, to be honest, because you can't. It'd be hard to draft 3 just absolute all pro players at those 3 positions. So I think if you can maybe, I think if you had to sign one of those 3, I think it would end up being tackle, to be honest, because you have Panay already as that kind of number 1 tackle.
Yeah, Anna could ask Mailbag, what is the funniest reaction to a take you've ever seen? Funniest reaction to a take you have ever seen. Example, Flannel smashing his head into the table. I
don't know. That's a good question.
I think for me, like, I've worked with Flannel. I did a show with him for over a year. So and Lucas was on there for
Flannel ones are the best.
How long were you on there, Luke?
Probably about a year.
You were. Oh yeah. I think the timeline was the exact same. We've seen Flannel react. I mean, we've seen Flannel react to some takes. I mean, I'll never forget. I mean, anytime Jameson Williams was brought up, he would freak out.
Okay, well, Mahomes and Burrow was always a classic one to bring up with him.
Yeah.
I mean, Flannel. When we were gone,
Jamal Williams was a great one.
Montgomery. Yeah.
Flannel passed out because of a take. Like he literally passed out on a show. I know we weren't there then, but like the man,
he leaves it all out there.
Middle of show, like you could talk about a crash out. The man literally crashed out.
Yeah,
legit.
Tyler says, I've seen Jalen Walker fall in many mocks. Any chance you guys think of the Lions getting a hybrid linebacker edge type like Walker?
I don't think Jalen Walker. You have to trade up a bit. I don't think he's going to drop. Yeah, every single mock, I've seen him like top 15. He's like moving up.
I was about to say the same thing. I was about to say I've seen him move up rather than fall.
Yeah, I've seen him in the top 10 in some mocks.
So Carolina, yeah.
Yeah.
I think Jalen Walker's interesting. He's kind of like like you said, Tyler, hybrid linebacker edge. I think Josiah, he's probably more edge than linebacker, but still, like those guys that can get after the quarterback, maybe got a little bit of Sam in them. I know Jalen Walker can. I think it's intriguing. You know what I mean? I'm not like I would much rather have a guy that can put his hand in the dirt consistently and get after the quarterback, stop the run. But, now the chance, I think it's low, but if it happened, I don't think I'd be super upset. I wouldn't be super upset at it.
So I think the Jahad Campbell situation or player is like kind of more realistic because you could trade up to 20 and get him, or if there's a better chance of him falling to than Jalen Walker. I'm with you though, Jeff. Like that's kind of that Sam position to where it's like if you were to get a guy like that, you just go second round. I would rather have like an actual edge rusher in round
like
1.
Jahad, I would really like, but it's like,
but again, that's a similar position
thing.
to where it's like kind of that hybrid. And if you're going to do that, you might as well draft like a Michael Williams and then take Josiah Stewart in the second, and then you have that still. Like you still have it.
Steve says, Mailbag, you take Zabel in the first, Tyleik Williams and Landon Jackson are both there in the second. Who do you take? I would take Tyleik personally.
You would be fine with no edge rusher in the first 2 rounds.
I'm not, if he gave me the option, Landon Jackson, I'm just not big on Landon Jackson. I'm not like
How about this? Your favorite edge rusher in the second round you have, or Tyleik Williams?
Yeah, edge rusher. Like Jordan Birch.
All right. Okay, that's a great, because I think it's more so just like my position.
Then that's fair. I'm just not big on Landon Jackson. I've seen some talk about him. We got to see him.
People love him.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of his, man.
Is it because he's bald?
No, it's not because he's bald.
Alopecia throwing you off? Is that what it is?
Built.
You're not a fan of Charlie V?
Just how he's built too. You know what I mean? He's just built like it's weird. Like I've got to see him at the combine that he just moves a little awkward. I don't know. It's just like it's
stiff.
Production was there.
I don't know. He gives off that vibe of there's always a couple guys in the draft classes that have that this happens to where everyone's like, I don't know about that guy, and then he ends up just being a dog, and you're like, oh man, he gives that vibe up to me. I don't know what like. I'm a little scared of dying on that hill of Landon Jackson's bad. I don't like him because then I feel like he's going to actually go into like year 1 or like his first, like we're talking about the first 5 years in that projection. I feel like the man's going to have a couple years of like 8+ sacks, and I'm going to look at you boys like Klotzy. Oh no. Landon Jackson's a dog kind of.
And watch, he could be. Malik says Jeff crashing out over Gio Manu and Dan Skipper, Lucas getting heated over Isaiah Hodgkins, and Booner and Jeff going at it over Jack Campbell.
Gio Skipper one. I can't believe though this guy Jeff crashed out hard over Dan Skipper. That might be one of the funniest ones I think I've ever had.
Yeah, we have a ton on this show, man. Dating back to when we started over a year ago. There's so many moments of screaming at each other. I
wish we had like a behind the scene. When we get a studio, like we're gonna have to have a camera behind the scenes after shows, because when we get in after the shows, like the Dan Skipper Gio one after the show, we're still going.
Yeah,
that was one where I was like, oh, that was a wild one.
We fight like brothers, literally.
For sure. And like even the Jack Campbell one. You guys think on the show that was going? We were going to Nashville, and for 2 hours while the boys slept in the back, no one around. It was just for Jeff and I's entertainment. We're screaming at each. I called the doc. I needed some backup from the doc. Oh man,
those are good moments, man. That's sports. It means we love it. It's passion. We talk with passion. We have opinions. Got a lot of opinions, and it's sometimes hard to squeeze it in for 2 hours. I mean, the show's already over, and
off the show, man.
Yeah, we
in a good way.
Appreciate the doc also coming on every Wednesday. He's so consistent, man. Brings it every single week. And appreciate you all. I think we're like 30 away from 13,100, boys. So keep pushing it. Keep sharing things. Keep telling your friends about us, man. It means the world. I mean, we have people coming up to us. I went to a bowling alley last week, and the bartender, I think his name was Zach, came right up. Say, man, love the show. And by the way, if you're watching, if I got your name wrong, then I'm a douchebag. But regardless, great guy. And that stuff makes my whole day. So keep up the support, guys. Get your merchandise, officialctsports.com. And we will catch you tomorrow, 8 p.m. But until then,
love you guys.
Take care, everyone. Go Lions.
Peace.